In the next 5 slides, we'll discuss more of reference designs and how we would utilize a DCMS license and SDDC license. The 5 slides will comprise of 5 rack configurations, both for DCMS license and also for SDDC. So let's go to the next slide here and talk about a US data center rack and also a POC trial license rack. So for the official purchase, we require a management switch to be able to manage the BMC. This would be a typical 3748 Supermicro switch. You have a management node itself, which in this case is where the SCC appliance is going to be run. We've chosen a big twin on that SS appliance, which is in the rack. So if we were monitoring 12 particular hosts, so that would indicate there are 4 nodes for each of the environments, for each of the server nodes. We have 3 of them for a total of 4. So this would be a 2 4-node configuration. So 4 times 3 is 12. So in that use case, we'd require purchase 12 DCMS licenses to be turned on for Redfish, which is a requirement for SuperCloud Composer, and we would have 12 licenses for our SDD single to monitor each of those 12 nodes as monitored compute host. Let's move on to the next use case, which is the POC trial license. Again, we have a management switch here, which is a 3748. That's going to manage our BMC. We've also chosen a SDDC, or I'm sorry, a SCC appliance to run on our big twin. No requirements to require an SDD single or DCMS license. So if you notice here, we do not require a SDDC or DCMS license to monitor its SCC appliance. So you can't monitor yourself, so we don't require any licenses in that particular use case. And we're going to generate a SDDC trial key based on the LAN 0 MAC address. So the PM team would need that LAN 0 MAC address to be able to generate an SDDC key. And then at this point, we only require 12 DCMS licenses to be purchased, because those 12 DCMS licenses are going to turn on Redfish functionality. How did we get the 12 DCMS licenses? We have 4 nodes for each of the chassis. 4 times 3 is a total of 12 DCMS licenses. The other note to take away here is when you go ahead and turn on an SDDC trial license, it will last for 90 days and will turn on 200 monitored hosts. Okay, moving on to the next use case is a liquid-cooled rack solution. So in our liquid-cooled rack solution, we have a management switch for official purchase, again, to manage our BMC. We have a SDDC license of 4. So we have a 2U 2-node configuration. So 2 times 2 is 4. So in this case, to purchase, we would purchase 4 SDD single licenses and 4 DCMS single licenses. And then for a monitored host for our GPU, we require a DCMS single license and an SDD single license to monitor the GPU. And then on our appliance, we would not consume any SDDC single or DCMS. The management node would run our SCC appliance, and then we don't license today the cooling distribution unit for the CDU itself. we have a quantity of 1 that's controlling our liquid-cooled rack. So moving on to the second side, where is another use case where we are looking at a trial license for POC. We'll start again at the bottom. No license required to manage the liquid-cooled rack or the liquid-cooled CDU. We have a trial license that has been generated based on the LAN 0 MAC address that we've decided to deploy on this Big Twin host. And we also have 1 GPU. At this case, where we're going to use a DCMS license that would need to be purchased. No requirement for an SDDC single license because we're using the trial key. No SDDC license to be purchased because we're using a trial key. And then we have 4 DCMS licenses. 2 2U node is 2 times 2 is basically 4. And we have a 90-day trial license that would be activated for this particular use case. Moving on to the next particular use case is a super blade. And so first thing is we do not consume a license on the CMM itself. Only licenses are consumed on the blades. So we have a management switch, which is a top of rack switch that we've going to utilize for compute. The blades themselves have interconnect switches inside them, which will act as our interconnect for compute. Our management switch is where our CMM is going to connect into. So let's review the licenses for official purchase. So we have the management node, which is our SCC appliance deployed on a 1U server. So no SDDC license consumed or DCMS license consumed. On the monitored host, which is our blades, we have an 8U enclosure with 20 nodes. So at this point, we would incur 40 SDDC single licenses and 40 basically DCMS single, because we have 2 enclosures, 2 times 20 in each enclosure is basically 40 particular nodes. So we have 2 enclosures with 20 blades inside them, consuming 40 SDD single and consuming 40 DCMS for purchase. Moving on to the POC on the right hand side for trial license. Again, a management switch we're utilizing for management of the CMM of the blades. We have the management node, which is where our SCC appliance is loaded. Again, we generate an SDDC trial key on that management node, which is the SCC appliance, where we are going to generate a key based on the LAN MAC address. No SDDC single license purchased or DCMS license purchased for the SCC appliance. We require 40 DCMS licenses. How do we get that number? We have 20 blades here in one enclosure and 20 blades in the second enclosure. 2 times 20 is 40. And we don't consume an SDDC single license because we've generated a trial key to turn on 200 monitored hosts. And then at this point, the license of the SDD key will be available for 90 days. Moving on to the next use case, the last one is for Grace Hopper systems, which is our NVIDIA Grace Hopper. We have a use case for purchase on the first particular rack. Again, we have a management switch, which is not requiring a license for SDDC to monitor. We have a SCC appliance deployed on the 1U server. no requirement for any type of license for STD single or DCMS. We have the CG1 node, which is a 1U node. We have 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1U servers, which are Grace Hopper, 5 STD single licenses for purchase, 5 DCMS licenses for purchase. And then we have on the bottom the CG2, which is a 2U 1 node. We have 3, 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 STD single licenses and 3 DCMS licenses for purchase. The last use case on the right is for POC trial license. Again, a management switch to manage our BMC. We have an SCC appliance deployed on a 1U server. We have 5 1U 1 nodes for Grace Hopper. So we require 5 DCMS licenses, but no STD single key because we never purchased it, because we generated a trial license. So that turns on 200 monitored hosts to support that. We also have 3, 1, 2, 3 Grace Hopper CG2 systems, which are 2U 1 node. No SDDC single license required because we generated a trial key, and we have 3 DCMS licenses we purchased to provide Redfish functionality for our SCC appliance. And again, the license for SDDC will be deactivated after 90 days. One more reference design we have is for AMD H100 GPU servers. For purchase, we have a switch which is not require a license. We've deployed SCC on our 1U node. No licenses required for SDDC single or DCMS. We have our GPU server, which is quantity of 2, so that will require us to have 2 SDDC singles to manage, and then also 2 DCMS single license to manage for SDDC. Remember, DCMS single is required to manage or turn on Redfish. If you decide to not deploy the SDDC license, as I mentioned, you could still deploy SCC on the appliance and just provide server management to 2 of these GPU servers and be able to provide no level of liquid-cooled rack management or other functionality that you needed, or advanced enterprise support as far as management and monitoring of the enterprise. Moving to the next particular use case, we decided to deploy a POC as a trial license. Again, no license required for the management switch. We deployed SCC on the management node, which is a 1U node. We have no requirement for SDDC single that we purchased, nor DCMS. On the management node, we've generated a trial key. That trial key will last and be deactivated after 90 days. And then we have 2 GPU servers, AMD based. 2 DCMS licenses are required for purchase, but we don't have any requirement to purchase SDD single because we've generated a trial key, and that would support 200 activations of 200 monitored hosts. All right, moving on to the next slide. So at this point, I want to discuss our key takeaways that we've talked about. Is the ability to have SCC, Intelligent Data Center Infrastructure Management, as a software solution. Asset inventory management, we covered rack management, advanced out-of-band telemetry and analytics, massive node deployment and firmware updates. We showed you smart PDU management, liquid cooling, CDU management, and then we discussed at the last the 90-day use case for SEC trial licenses and DCMS trial with our current takeaways. My name is Kevin Culp. Thank you for joining today. It was a pleasure going through and explaining the use cases and the importance of our platform, SuperCloud Composer. Take this opportunity, take a journey, take a trial, and experience the only comprehensive open standard-based platform in the industry supporting truly an open distributed infrastructure management experience. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.